So good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're calling in from. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, 1 hour webinar hosted by Prevention Plus Wellness, located here in beautiful St. Augustine, Florida. And as I look out my window, it's a gorgeous sunny day, and I hope it's nice where you're at and it's not too cold. But if it is, come visit us here in St. Augustine, Florida. I'm happy to show you around this unique historic town. My name is Dr. Chudley Wirch. I'm CEO and founder at Prevention Plus Wellness. And again, we're hosting today's webinar. And I will show you the slides. We'll cover the content. I'm recording this, so I will send everyone who's registered a link to the recorded session. And I'll send a certificate to those of you that are on with us throughout the entire session for 1 hour of CE credit. And I think that's just about it. And this is new content, so thank you for joining us. We just had a tremendous amount of interest in this topic. So I think you'll find it of use and helpful and interesting. And you can participate by finding the Q&A and typing in any comments you have as we go along. And at the end of today's session, I'll take those comments and those questions in the order that you type them in. So the Q&A is where we'll go if you want to make a comment or you want to ask a question, not the chat space, but the Q&A space. Okay? Well, let's go ahead and launch. You can see the topic for today is strengthening youth mental health by targeting wellness within SBIRT. What's SBIRT? I'm sure most of you know, if not all of you, it's screening, brief intervention, and referral to treatment. But today's topic really relates to any kind of prevention or intervention program, whether it's SBIRT or whether it's some other form of brief intervention, or whether it's an educational program, a media campaign. I think what we'll be talking about is relevant for just generally for prevention and intervention. So you can see the purpose. We're going to be focusing on wellness, the importance of wellness, definitions of wellness. What is this? And how, and its role in providing and promoting more holistic prevention and early intervention, which can lead to improved mental health outcomes for young people. So we have 3 objectives for today's session, and you can see them here. The first is that we'll be describing some common models for wellness and look at the relationship between wellness and substance use and mental health. Secondly, we're going to examine the mental health effects of the big 3 health behaviors, those being physical activity and sports, breakfast and nutrition, and sleep, and the role of those health behaviors on protecting and promoting mental health among young people, but adults as well. And number 3, I'll be introducing to you a 4-step evidence-based SBIRT model. This model can be used for creating SBIRT or other types of brief interventions, or as I said before, any kind of prevention, intervention, media campaigns, whatever you want. This model, 4-step model, integrates wellness within prevention and intervention to promote mental and physical well-being of young people. Okay, so lots to cover. Let's start with wellness definitions and models. And I think a very common definition of model, one of the earliest you'll see, was published in 1948 by the World Health Organization. And this definition continues to be repeated even today, all these decades later. And the World Health Organization stated that wellness is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, or in other words, not just the absence of disease or illness or in negative outcomes in your health. There's something more to this notion of wellness. Again, notice it's physical, mental, and social well-being. Now, there is no one general accepted definition of wellness, but this is a very common one. And across, I think, most, if not all, of the definitions, you'll see that wellness is a multifaceted construct. The person Halbert Dunn is credited as being the quote unquote father of the wellness movement. He wrote a treatise titled High Level Wellness for Man and Society back in 1959. And he presented this health grid, which described his concept of wellness. Here's the health grid for you to take a look at. And there's two axes on this grid. The horizontal axis, the one that goes from left to right, is the health axis, and that is really identifying behavioral health, behavioral aspects, lifestyle aspects of health. To the left is poor health, poor lifestyle health. To the right is our healthy lifestyle behaviors. And then the vertical axis is environment, and going south or down is unhealthy environments, physical environments, social environments, and going north or up is a healthy physical and social environment. So this is the grid. You got two axes, behaviors and environment. So right away you could see it's a socioeconomic kind of a model. And then you got these four quadrants in this grid. In the upper right-hand corner, the purple quadrant says high-level wellness. That quadrant is where you have healthy behaviors and a healthy supportive environment. So that's the goal of wellness, that transitory goal is high-level wellness. The next level, next best level would be going directly down to the green level, which is the emergent high-level wellness. That's where you are high. These individuals are high on the health behavior quadrant, the health behavior axis, but they're in an unhealthy environmental situation. Then you go to the yellow upper left-hand corner. That's protected poor health. That's where you're protected by a healthy environment, social and physical environment, but you're lacking in the health habits. And then lastly, the red quadrant, the lower left-hand corner, is poor health, which is indicated by an unhealthy environment and unhealthy behaviors. So this was something that was created, the health grid, back in 1959 by Halbert Dunn, who advanced this notion of wellness. Of course, those of you that are in the substance use field are well familiar with the fact that wellness is an integral part of treatment and recovery. And you can see this in a lot of documents. And here are just several of them to highlight that. So in a way, I think the treatment and the recovery field are ahead of the prevention and intervention field in terms of seeing the importance of wellness in promoting overall health and also addressing substance use. SAMHSA, in fact, that being the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA has a wellness initiative, and you can see their definition of wellness right here. Very similar to the World Health Organization, not merely the absence of disease and illness or even stress, but the presence of positive purpose in terms of life and satisfaction, play and work, joyful relationships, healthy body, living environments, and even happiness. And the SAMHSA Wellness Initiative highlighted three, I think, important things. Number one, that wellness integrates behavioral health and physical health. In other words, body and mind are viewed as a part of the whole, part of what wellness is about. So it's not just about physical health, it's not just about substance use, it's about health and mind, interconnection, and how these parts interact and influence each other. Mind influences the body, vice versa. Behavioral health and physical health are both very important to overall wellness. Number two, wellness is an empowering and prevention-oriented concept, unlike the typical disease or treatment model that we think of in medicine today. And that is the fact that wellness focuses on empowering individuals, empowering families and communities, and focusing on positive goals, learning management skills, and developing healthy habits. You'll see this as we go throughout this webinar, the focus on healthy habits. Wellness is a journey and not a destination. In other words, it's a continual focus and effort. You may have a snapshot in your life of your level of wellness, but that changes from day to day, if not moment to moment, depending on, again, your particular circumstances. So wellness is a multifaceted, interactive dimension. All these dimensions influence each other. I think that's an important concept, whether it's emotional or environmental, financial, intellectual, occupational, physical, social, spiritual. You can have more, you can have less of these dimensions, but the idea is that there's multiple dimensions and they influence each other. And so to take one of these dimensions, and then just focus on one of these areas of life is not going to have the impact on overall wellness, promoting overall wellness as you would addressing multiple dimensions. SAMHSA has a document called Creating a Healthier Life, Step-by-Step Guide to Wellness, and the section on improving our physical wellness, I think I wanted to highlight for you, because you'll see what the physical wellness dimension emphasizes. It emphasizes nutrition, emphasizes physical activity, as you can see here going down the list, sleep, and avoidance of alcohol and other drug use and misuse, and then some additional things like medication safety and preventive medicine. So a lot of emphasis in the physical wellness realm on the big three behaviors: nutrition, physical activity, sleep, and avoidance of substance misuse. The United States has published for years now a decade goals for the nation for healthy people. The most recent is Healthy People 2020. And this is the first time that there's actually a goal on improving health-related quality of life. That's HRQOL, health-related quality of life. And this concept is multidimensional, and it sounds very much like wellness or well-being. And the interesting thing about this is, again, this is the first time that at a federal level, we're building in wellness within national health goals for Americans. And instead of, again, the traditional view of looking at prevention as only avoiding or minimizing illness or risk factors, the focus here for the first time is on well-being or wellness, or focusing on disease resistance, resilience, and self-management skills. And that's certainly a component or certainly related to the concept of wellness. I think also important is this idea of a reality of the bidirectional relationships between wellness and mental health. So if you take a look at the top of this screen, you'll see that substance use and misuse and mental health are associated in a negative fashion. In other words, as substance use and misuse increase, mental health generally decreases, and vice versa. So there's this negative relationship. One goes up, the other goes down. The other one goes up, the other one goes down. So that's the relationship, substance use and misuse. As that increases, that's for youth and adults, doesn't matter. But as a young person begins to initiate and engage in heavier use, which can lead to substance use disorder, that's going to have a negative impact on mental health. And poor mental health can also have an impact on substance use. Other health behaviors, if you go down to the next arrow, other lifestyle behaviors like physical activity, nutrition, sleep are positively associated with mental health. In other words, As these behaviors increase, mental health increases. As these behaviors decrease, mental health generally decreases. As mental health increases, these behaviors are also suffer. So you can see that there's these important relationships between wellness and mental health. One thing I like to state, and this is my particular opinion, is that substance use prevention and early intervention are too exclusionary. There seems to be too much of a focus on individual types of substance use rather than factors that can influence substance use more generally or more broadly. And particularly, substance use prevention and intervention oftentimes ignores addressing healthy behaviors that can enhance substance use prevention and intervention, as well as protect and improve mental health. So I believe there's a real need for broader substance use prevention and intervention that addresses promoting healthy behaviors that can protect health habits, that can, I should say, have a greater impact on substance use prevention and improve overall well-being by focusing again on these health behaviors, which can lead to greater well-being, as well as performance and happiness, those are terms you'll hear in wellness, but you don't hear enough in the prevention intervention field. I think this is related to that is this notion of lifestyle factors, risk factors clustering among individuals, among adolescents. In this case, there was a study that was done across 89 countries, and there's national studies in our own nation that have found similar things, but I thought this study was amazing because it engaged and cut across 89 different countries, and it was published in Preventive Medicine 2020, and it found that across 89 countries that adolescents, 8 out of 10 adolescents were experiencing 2 or more health behavior risk factors, and over a third had 3 or more risk factors at the same time. It also found that older adolescents, 16 to 17-year-olds, were more likely to have more risk factors than younger adolescents. In other words, as adolescents age from 11 to 13, young adolescents to older adolescents, and I would say we could take that to young adults, would be further increase the risk factors, that you'll see older adolescents are more likely to have 3 or more risk factors, and that these risk factors that co-occurred include things like smoking and alcohol, but also physical activity and poor nutrition, and these all correlated and clustered together. So the authors of this study highlighted and recommended the fact that because of this clustering of lifestyle risk factors, it's important to have broader-based prevention strategies that didn't just focus on one risk factor, but tried to address multiple risk factors at the same time. So I mentioned the big 3 lifestyle behaviors, and so one way to look at them is a two-sided coin in terms of mental health. So take physical activity as one of the big 3 lifestyle behaviors. Individuals that engage in physical activity and sports are more likely to have better health outcomes than those that are more physically inactive and have excessive screen time. Same with diet and healthy breakfast. Adolescents who eat a regular healthy breakfast, eat more fruits and vegetables, that's associated with better mental health outcomes. Skipping breakfast and lacking in vitamins and minerals and nutrients and healthy diet generally associated more with poor mental health outcomes. And the same with sleep. Adequate sleep and good quality sleep associated with good mental health outcomes, and vice versa. So what are the goals in terms of health behaviors in general across adolescence? So this is sort of an overview of recommendations from a number of national and international organizations, health and fitness organizations. For young people, they recommend, for example, CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, recommends 1 hour physical activity every day. That's the minimum. Limit recreational screen time. And there's different limits depending on what you read and what age group you're talking about. Healthy breakfast every day, essential. 3 fruits, 3 vegetable servings a day, 2 fruit servings a day, 8 hours of sleep minimum a day, avoiding alcohol and drug use, obviously. And I like to add, practicing a daily relaxation technique. Now, I will tell you that eating nutritiously, getting regular physical activity, and getting plenty of sleep helps control stress, but there are other daily relaxation techniques that we like to address and promote. It could be meditation, it could be prayer, it could be walking in nature, but also very important to address stress among young people. So we talk about these health behaviors. What's the reality in terms of the national epidemiologic data on high school adolescents in the United States? Well, if we take a look at this chart, the top item, who's getting 8 hours of sleep, not even a quarter of high school adolescents is getting 8 hours of sleep every day. And some might need 9 or more hours. 11% are eating 3 servings of vegetables a day. Not even a quarter are eating 2 fruits and vegetables a day. Only 25% eat breakfast every day. Not even a quarter are getting the required amount of physical activity every day. And 3/4 are getting 3 or more hours of screen time. So you could see, not good, not good data with regard to these risk behaviors outside of substance use that are associated over time with chronic disease and poor mental health outcomes. So essentially, I'm saying there's a number of reasons for targeting lifestyle behaviors within prevention and intervention programs. Number one, youth are exposed to multiple health risks, not just including substance use, but other risks that can influence their mental and physical well-being. 2, lifestyle behaviors are intercorrelated and they influence each other. Therefore, the need to address, rather than address them as silos or independent of each other, to address them more holistically. 3, healthy lifestyle behaviors protect against substance use, misuse to a certain extent. 4, lifestyle behaviors also protect against and promote mental health. 5, targeting healthy lifestyle behaviors address the ultimate goal, I think, that we all have for our prevention and intervention programs, which is not just that we want young people to avoid risk, but we want to promote wellness. We want to promote protective factors. And lastly, number 6, healthy lifestyle behaviors empower youth to choose positive behaviors and future identities of themselves, starting to look to the future, which is a very critical goal and need among young people, to get them to think of themselves in positive terms in the future and positive identities. In other words, what can they do instead of what can they just avoid? So why are healthy lifestyle behaviors so important? Healthy lifestyle behaviors are essential to successful and sustained substance use prevention and intervention, treatment and recovery. And as SAMHSA has identified, people with serious mental health and substance use diagnoses die early because of these other health habits that influence their medical conditions and their health and premature mortality. Now, teen brain, you as prevention and intervention specialists, you hear about the teen brain, the prefrontal cortex is under development till age 25 or so. And so that decision making and that impulse control is still developing, and that can lead to risky behaviors like substance use. You may also know that many mental health disorders seem to emerge during adolescence, and that the teen brain may be more vulnerable to stress. But do you also know, under number 4, that the plasticity of the young brain allows it to change, to adapt, and to respond to the environment, including positive elements. This means physical activity and other healthy behaviors, sleep, nutrition. So while the brain development can be related to risk behaviors, introducing young people to positive behaviors during brain development can have a very important impact on the mental and physical formation. One of the negative aspects, number 5, is that teens need more sleep as they get older, and yet they have greater melatonin levels later on in night. So at night, so it sort of pushes their sleep schedule back, which makes it difficult for them to get sleep. So sleep is a particularly challenging issue among teens. So what are the mental health effects of the big 3 lifestyle behaviors, the big 3 health risk lifestyle behaviors? Let's take a look at them one at a time. Physical inactivity and youth mental health. Physical inactivity is associated with psychological distress, depression, lower mental health well-being, lower life satisfaction, less happiness. Poor eating is associated with depression and eating disorders, as well as a whole host of physical outcomes. Skipping breakfast associated with higher stress, depression, psychological distress, and anxiety in adolescence. And inadequate sleep is linked to thinking and academic achievement harm, emotional health issues, decision-making, and risky behavior taking. Then if we look at the other side of that coin, if we look at the mental health benefits of the big 3 lifestyle behaviors, we see quite the opposite. So that's why I'm saying it's important. Lacking the big 3 behaviors harms mental health. Engaging or helping young people practice health behaviors can improve mental health. So for example, we can look at the mental, emotional, and social benefits of regular physical activity. There's a large list, a long list of outcomes, from reduced stress and greater self-esteem and less suicide ideation and attempts to increase life satisfaction. So physical activity and mental health and emotional outcomes very much, very powerfully linked. Same with healthy eating. We see that mental health benefits of eating breakfast alone. Energy is essential, and breakfast provides that energy. And improved concentration, better grades, and also we see that eating healthy clusters with other health, positive health outcomes. Same with sleep. The benefits include thinking and academic achievement outcomes, promotes attention, memory, analytical thought, emotional health. Young people that don't get enough sleep they're going to have mood issues. As you know, if you have teens in your house, irritability, and of course that flows over to families and to friends and into school and work. And sleep's also associated with physical and health and development. And almost every system of the body, by the way, is influenced by sleep, and decision-making and risky behaviors, as we mentioned before. So you could see the relationship between the big 3 behaviors and mental health. So let's get to the core of really what we wanted to talk about today, and that is, what can we do about it as prevention and intervention specialists? So as I view this, there's basically 2 strategies for us to integrate prevention, early intervention, and wellness. One is this one, the piecemeal approach. It's what I call the status quo. And that's where you can implement individual programs and campaigns and brief interventions like SBIRT that address individual risk factors. individual substance use behaviors, and individual other risk factors. This is a very costly approach. It's very consuming in both in terms of dollars and time, and it's the status quo. It's the least holistic and it's the least comprehensive. It's what we're doing now for the most part in terms of integration of prevention, intervention, and mental health or wellness. The other approach is what I call the integrated approach. That's where we work to integrate and present programs and campaigns and strategies like SBIRT that combine within these single strategies substance use prevention and intervention with wellness promotion, with healthy behavior promotion. This is the most cost-effective approach. It's the most integrated approach. It's the most holistic approach. But the question becomes how, but how? How do we do this? How do we integrate substance use prevention intervention with wellness? So let's take a look at brief intervention in general, brief interventions, BIs in general. Decades old history of success. It's one of the most highly researched strategy in the mental health field, both in terms of substance use and then later, more recently, healthy behaviors. So we find that brief interventions can be efficacious. We know that they're considered an evidence-based practice by SAMHSA, by NIDA, by CDC, by NIAAA, by et cetera. World Health Organization has identified brief interventions or SBIRT as a particular brief intervention model, or motivational interviewing, or whatever, different kinds of models of brief interventions as being evidence-based practice. That's at a level above evidence-based programs. So it's an evidence-based practice. And brief interventions have the potential to increase public health reach. Because they're brief, you're more likely to reach more adolescents, more youth, more adults throughout your target population. And even if effects are small, you can have a true public health effect because you're able to reach so many individuals versus more intensive or lengthy types of prevention and intervention. So you already know, I suspect, what youth screening brief intervention referral to treatment is, SBIRT, but I thought I'd put a slide up here nonetheless for you, so you can see it, that youth SBIRT is designed to reduce the effects of youth substance use by equipping usually primary care, but we see a trend now to move SBIRT into other youth settings, particularly school settings. And to give this tool to behavioral health providers so that they can do this three-step process of screening, brief intervention, and referral to treatment. So that's the SBIRT model. Screening in the typical SBIRT model is to screen to identify risks that are at high risk and then deliver appropriate responses, particularly to the high risk. The brief intervention is for those youth that are at high risk to increase their awareness, elicit motivation, increase motivation, and help them, in some cases, set goals to change their behaviors. And then for those at the highest risk, to refer for further assessment and maybe even treatment. That's the model, the SBIRT model. I think this review of research published in 2018, I think, is very interesting because it reviewed interventions that use physical activity, or PA, as an intervention to improve overall health. And they reviewed all kinds of whatever published interventions were in the literature at that time, and found that there was a decrease in substance use that was associated with one-time multi-health consultations. In other words, SBIRTs and other brief interventions that address not just substance use, but physical activity and other kinds of health behaviors. And those were found to be effective. Those school-based interventions were found to be effective in decreasing substance use in adolescents. So there's some evidence of this strategy of brief interventions, including SBIRT, for that address multiple health behaviors for reducing substance use. So here we are, that this takes us to the model that I wanted to share with you, this 4-step, what I call an evidence-based SBIRT model for integrating substance use prevention and intervention and wellness to strengthen mental health among young people. So I call this an evidence-based model because if you look at the bottom of the screen, this is the model that's been used by us to create 2 evidence-based programs, including the SBIRT, Prevention Plus Wellness Program for Youth, a single session, 45-minute intervention, and the InShape Prevention Plus Wellness Program for young adults. Both of those are evidence-based, on evidence-based registries, research supported, as well as a whole host of other youth programs, parent programs, adult programs, and even media campaigns that use this particular model. And what is the 4-step model? You can see it right here: screening, prevention plus intervention, goal setting, and follow-up. So very much like the typical SBIRT model, but sort of a souped up version, sort of an added on version, an integrated SBIRT model. So let's take a look at it. Screening to identify youth at risk, which is a typical screening for an SBIRT, and also to increase behavioral reflection, to get young people to think about their health behaviors. Number 2 is the feedback, prevention and intervention feedback. This is where we integrate and motivate behavioral change to prevent and to reduce substance use and to promote healthy behaviors for all youth. So we can see how this, this is a broadening of the typical SBIRT by focusing on, in addition to substance use, promoting healthy behaviors and directing this toward all youth because of the need to address these other health behaviors that are very common among youth, not just in our country, but in countries across the world. 3rd step in this, screening, prevention plus intervention feedback. 3rd step, goal setting. It's to initiate multiple behavior change for all youth. So not just to avoid substance use or to reduce substance use, but to increase protective, healthy behaviors. And again, for all youth, because of the need for all youth to address these common multiple risk behaviors that they have in their life. And then 4thly, follow-up to refer to treatment for those at highest risk based on the screening, but also to promote continued goal setting for all youth over time, thereby strengthening self-regulation skills and self-efficacy. So this particular model of SBIRT, this holistic model, has integration at different levels. It integrates SBIRT with multiple health behavior, screening and brief intervention. It integrates prevention and early intervention. It integrates substance use with healthy behaviors or wellness, and integrates wellness with mental health. So you can see this particular SBIRT model is, again, a much more holistic model. So let me walk you through the 4 steps. And after that, if you have questions, again, we have 1 question in Q&A. If you have others, we got 3 now. I'll be able to address those comments and questions at the end here. So here's the model, 4-step model. I already said what it is: screening, feedback, goal setting, and follow-up. So let's look at what we're talking about. This is the model you can use. We've used it, as I said, to create evidence-based brief interventions and programs for parents and adults and media campaigns, and you could do the same. So step number 1, screening youth to identify youth at risk, at substance use risk, and to increase behavioral reflection. So what is this all about? So number 1, again, behavioral reflection is, if you look at the literature, a very essential first step in changing personal habits, having individuals think about their health behaviors. So what's done here is you want young people to, you want to assess them to get them to increase their awareness of their health risks and their health strengths. And again, this cuts across health behaviors, not just in this particular model, not just substance use. So not just whether they've used or ever used or used in the last 30 days alcohol or e-cigarettes or regular tobacco or opioids or whatever, or multiple substances, but to what extent are they eating breakfast every day, amount of sleep every night, physical activity every day, in particular, those habits as well. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Maybe they're avoiding substance use. Maybe they're initiating it, strength, weakness. Maybe they're engaging in regular physical activity. Maybe they're not getting adequate sleep, strength, weakness. And so, this screening or questioning will get young people to start reflecting on their own behaviors, essential to behavioral change. So thinking about specific steps that they can take to improve each of their health behaviors will come from asking them first about their current health behaviors. So screening surveys or asking questions, a great way to initiate this reflection process. So that's step one, use screening behaviors, not just to identify youth at substance use risk, but to initiate behavioral reflection. So in this modified holistic SBIRT model, what we're talking about is using a validated screener for substance use like a CRAFT or an S2B1, but also other screening questions, as I mentioned, to increase reflection, like, do you usually get 1 hour or more physical activity every day? Do you sleep 8 or more hours most evenings? Do you eat breakfast most days a week? And then during the feedback, asking additional reflection questions, which continue the increasing awareness of their habits, what are strengths, what are weaknesses, and how they can improve the weaknesses by asking questions like, what types of physical activity do you like? Or do you think you'd like to try in the future? Notice focusing again on the future focus. So that's the first thing, screening. Next thing, feedback. Now, feedback we have broken down into 3 parts. Feedback, step 2. So we have 2A, 2B, 2C. So the first part of this feedback is positive feedback by highlighting the benefits of healthy behaviors, especially positive future images. And this is for all youth. So here are some of the aspects of this. Number 1, providing positive feedback tailored to each current health behavior. So if the young person said yes, they've engaged in regular physical activity, positive feedback, good for you, congratulations. If they didn't get enough physical activity, then still positive, or at least a neutral feedback. Well, this is an opportunity for you to improve physical activity. If they are not engaging in substance use, congratulations. If they are, this is an opportunity for change, either positive or neutral feedback, no negative feedback, which would reduce reception of your prevention intervention messaging. Number 2, benefits of engaging in each health behavior will increase positive expectations of those behaviors. Number 3, using future images as well as images and models of peers engaging in health behaviors. In other words, young people see plenty of models and images of themselves engaging in negative behaviors like e-cigarette use on YouTube. We're talking about the opposite, showing images and models of their peers engaging in health behaviors, physical activity, nutrition, sleep. And these images hold particular motivational strength because they're related to personal identities. And these identities, these images, can be cued unconsciously by using image terms like fit, active, healthy, successful. So this is the first step in the feedback, highlighting the positive benefits and expectations, expectancies and outcomes and images, future desired images that youth want of themselves, that parents and teachers want of youth, and that is for them to be successful, to be healthy, to be active, to be happy, etc. So this is the first step, feedback 2A. 2B is then linking how substance use harms those healthy habits. Okay, so linking how specific substance use interferes with achieving healthy behaviors. This is key to how you can address multiple health behaviors within a single SBIRT or program or campaign. So you want to illustrate how substance use sabotages achieving the positive benefits and desired future images. And this links these behaviors together. It reminds youth that negative behaviors, risk behaviors, using alcohol use, using e-cigarettes, cannabis, etc., harms their ability to be physically active and to experience the benefits of being physically active now and in the future, in their lives, in their friendships, etc. Okay, so it prevents them, in other words, substance use prevents them from reaching their desired goals, their future, the best image, the best version of themselves, if you will. And then step 2C, excuse me, the third part of the feedback is that also providing feedback addressing other known risk factors for substance use. So these risk factors include addressing within the feedback perceptions of harmfulness of using substances, social norms, that trying to correct overinflated norms that all my peers are using, as well as promote norms that your peers are engaging in health behaviors, addressing drug myths, resistance skills, environmental influences, and providing healthy alternatives to substance use. So this feedback is broad feedback. It's got this three components to it. After that second part, screening feedback, the third part is multiple health behavior goal setting. Short-term goals are more effective than long-term goals. Initiating behavior change and setting goals is essential to behavioral change. And then of course, SBIRT, brief interventions, and most prevention intervention is about our ultimate goal is not just to increase awareness or to inform or to educate. We want to change. We want to change habits. We want to change behaviors. And so goal setting is essential to this. Research shows that success in a short-term 1-week goal setting will increase the likelihood of long-term success in goal setting. And of course, setting goals and monitoring behaviors will increase self-regulation skills, which are lacking in youth, and self-efficacy. Of course, the goals need to be specific. They need to be measurable. They need to be SMART goals. But what's unique about this model is that they're multiple behavior goals. They're not just goals to avoid substance use. They're goals to increase one or more protective habits, get a little bit more sleep, a little bit more physical activity, eat more fruits or vegetables, eat more breakfast every morning. These are the goals that they can take baby steps toward that can have a tremendous impact on their mental health and their substance use. So you can also strengthen that goal setting under number 4 by making it a contract, by having it co-signed by the provider, by the teacher, by the nurse, by the counselor, by the parent, and have a calendar log. In other words, have a tool that the youth can then follow their behaviors for a 7-day period to see how well they're achieving their goals. And then the following week, which goes right up to this step 4, follow-up, they can continue that process and improve it over time. So step 4 is referral to treatment for those identified at highest risk from the validated screener, but also to continue to promote on a weekly basis goal setting and goal monitoring so that they increase that self-regulation and skills and self-efficacy. So very, very important. So whatever you can do to support and to reinforce those messages, the better. All right, so here we are. We're coming up on the end of it. My recommendation for you is if you want to actually take some action from this webinar, one suggestion is for you to take a few minutes and think about 3 concrete actions that you could take as a prevention and health specialist to integrate wellness or promoting healthy lifestyle behaviors within your prevention and intervention practice. Think about how you can do that for your youth. But in summary, I'll say number 1, wellness is associated with greater mental health outcomes, and also less substance use, and prevention and intervention is too exclusionary the way we practice it for the most part. Number 2, the big 3 health behaviors, physical activity, nutrition, sleep, are linked positively with mental health, negatively with substance use. And lastly, I presented a 4-step evidence-based SBIRT model. It can be used to create SBIRT programs or other brief interventions or other prevention education programs or media campaigns, but it's a great model for integrating prevention intervention with wellness for improving the overall mental and physical well-being of young people. So there's where you can learn more. If you want to go to our website, preventionpluswellness.com. We've got some great links there under our SBIRT banner, so you can learn more. Emmy, let me go to the Q&A and see what we have to say. Brenda says, are we able to get a copy of the slides? So Brenda, you're going to get a link to the recording of the session, and you're going to get a certificate. At this point, Brenda, I'm not going to share the slides because I've got a number of organizations that I'm presenting this to. And so until we make those presentations, I don't want to release the slides. I don't want this information out there before we can present it first. And so I'm going to hold off on sharing the slides. So, and at the end of the year, we'll probably release the slides for you, Brenda. So you may want to circle back and remind me of that. We'll be sending out the slides, same question. This is great. We'll be sharing the slide deck. And what are the SAMHSA approved screening tools for youth? Well, you can just search youth SBIRT. You could search adolescent SBIRT and you'll see the tools that are out there. There's just a whole host of things. You can check out our own Prevention Plus Wellness SBIRT programs as well on our website, preventionpluswellness.com. So I think SAMHSA promotes their model, which is SBIRT, and a little bit heavier emphasis on, as I read it, SAMHSA on adult SBIRT than adolescent SBIRT. But there's tools out there for you to get trained and to provide SBIRT to youth. And then Karen says, this has been great, certainly focusing on fruits, veggies, healthy choices, important. And can you speak to sugar? Well, there's so many things that's a great comment, Karen. I mean, there's so many things that we could have youth focus on. I would say try to stick first with the big ones, the big goals that health and fitness organizations have set. 1 hour of physical activity, healthy breakfast every day, 3 fruits, 3 vegetable servings a day. Only 11% are getting it. There's lots of room for improvement. 1 extra serving of vegetable a day, 2 fruits a day, 8 hours of sleep. So there's so much room for improvement in tackling these behaviors. And I always think it's easier to add something than it is to take away from something. Yes, we want young people to stay away from high caffeine drinks. We want them to stay away from high sugary drinks. We want to stay away from sugar in general. But I would say it's probably easier for them to add than to detract from their diet. And you want to stay with the main goals, which we have linked to mental health outcomes, which is particularly breakfast, number 1, fruits and vegetables, number 2, and then you can go from there. So there's lots of room for improvement for adolescents and adults to improve. That's why wellness is, again, it's not a destination, it's a journey, and it's going to take time, and you work toward that little bit at a time. So that's a great comment, question. How can we integrate parents into the prevention program? Well, we do it because we have one-session training programs for parents where we provide them to present the same positive image, positive behavior, communication, and goal setting at home that we present them in SBIRT or our screening and brief intervention. So you can take this content and you can present this to parents and get them to not just say, hey, I don't want you to use, and we have rules in our house, you're not going to be using substances till you're older, but also what can I do to support you to eat better, to eat breakfast more often, to eat more healthy food? What can I do to support you to get more physical activity? How can I help you to go to bed earlier, to get your 8 hours of sleep? So whatever you can do to support parents, to support their youth, to be positive in terms of their messaging and more holistic about their health habit messaging, including and linking how the health behaviors will help them avoid substance use interferes with health behaviors promote desired images of themselves, etc. So you can do that. We've done that in our programs. You can do that as well. Let's see. And then Mariana says, because they're part of the adolescence environment. Absolutely. Parents, caregivers, that's an environmental factor. So without a doubt, and then parents, by addressing these issues for their kids, they may also set their own goals, their own health goals, and think about that. So it's a good strategy. I think you're suggesting to bring in the parents. Okay, those are great questions. I'm going to go to the chat space now and see, since we have, I know we're out of time, but if you have a moment, let's take a look at some of the chat space comments, and because some people may have gone to chat instead of the Q&A. And, I missed the presentation, but again, no worries, because we'll be sending you a link to the recorded section. So, and people have to hop off, no worries. Thank you for the comments, the positive comments. They thought it was awesome. And again, yes, I know you're all busy. You may have caught some of it. Certainly the number of people that were on, I would say probably at the height, there was maybe a third of the people that registered. That's typical. So the good news is I'll send everybody the link, and eventually I will share the slides. But as I said, not at this point, because we're scheduled to present this on versions of it at different conferences throughout the country over the next several months. So maybe at the end of the year, we can do that for you. So thank you. She says you have to jump off. See so many kids. So I'll look at all these comments. There's so many of them. I see we got, how many chat comments do we have? I mean, there's dozens of them. So we're out of time. I'm going to let you go. If you need anything from us, please go to our website, preventionpluswellness.com. You can learn more about PPW SBIRT, PPW brief interventions, PPW media campaigns, parent training, all these things you're concerned about. If you want to have a more holistic model about promoting healthy behaviors and then preventing substance use at the same time, feel free to use our 4-step model. And you'll be hearing from me, because I'll be sending you the link to this recorded session, and also a certificate for your participation. And eventually we'll release these slides for you. But if you have any particular questions you want to address to me, you could send them to me at the email below there, info@preventionpluswellness.com. That's info@preventionpluswellness.com. Oops, I'm sorry about that. Let me go back to that. There it is. And then there's our phone number, 904-472-5022, or just go to our website, preventionpluswellness.com. Thank you all for what you do, for joining us. God bless you for the impact you're making and for youth and families in your communities. Hope to see you again. We'll be having some other webinars here in the future. I'm thinking perhaps in another month, we'll have one just demonstrating our PPW SBIRT, how to implement it for those of you that might be interested in that. All right, thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.